This isn't a f***ing guide. Don't take my word for anything. It's an experience. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to do the best that I can at explaining. So strap in. It's time for a journey. The year is 1996. Japan has just spawned its origin stories for its absolute titan of an IP and new series, Pocket Monsters, beginning with the original two versions of the game, Red and Green. From there, roughly 2 years later, it would spawn Red and Blue in the Western versions, and then another year later, 1999, Yellow Special Pikachu version. Do I have to present like this the whole time? Yeah, let's mix it up. Hello, I'm Professor Florida Animan, but you can just call me Nick, I guess. Doesn't really make a huge difference. Anyway, the world of Pokemon. I believe you could throw a dart into a group of people and have a pretty safe bet that somebody in there, you're gonna hit someone that knows Pokemon. It's probably like the biggest series franchise IP globally at this point. But it came from simple beginnings, where it was still massively popular when it came out. It was only going to get bigger. But starting with Red, Blue, and Yellow, I wanted to see if I could complete the Pokédex in the original generation, catching all 151 Pokemon. Is it still possible? By the end of this video, we will have a solid answer. What versions you need, what consoles or games you need. Is it still possible? I was just as curious going in as anybody else might be. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin this journey. For the sake of my sanity, I will be playing this save file on Pokemon Yellow because it provides the widest availability of Pokemon in a single game. That being said, the other two versions are actually going to be required, but I will get into that. They have caveats. About 140 out of the 151 Pokemon are available in Pokemon Yellow. That being said, they aren't all available in Pokemon Yellow because there are multiple playthroughs required to get certain Pokemon, as only one of numerous variants are provided. Starting off with Pokemon Yellow gives you a very different beginning than pretty much any other Pokemon game. Rather than selecting one of your starters, one of the hardest decisions for a child growing up as a kid, and even to this day for some of us adults, you are forced to take Pikachu. Now, the beginning catch here is much like Ash's Pikachu from the anime, Pikachu refuses to evolve. You need a Thunderstone, but you have to also trade it to another game. Red or Blue will work fine here, but you must trade it to another game, and you don't get Thunderstones until the 4th gym city. So it will require at least a playthrough just to get the Thunderstone and get Raichu to get the Dex entry to trade back. So actually beginning the journey with your newfound stubborn, refusing to evolve Pikachu, you can begin to raise and absolutely just deforest every route, village, forest, cave on your path, catching everything in sight to get each evolution required for the Pokédex entry. And this is a very simple part because there isn't a lot of limitation. You can just catch what you want. That being said, the first limitation does come to a version exclusive not in Yellow for some reason, Weedle. You can get Caterpie, but you can't get Weedle, which inherently locks out Kakuna and Beedrill, unfortunately. I don't know why this one's exclusive since I'm very certain it's in the other two versions, but it is, so we will need another playthrough just to catch that. Going from there, you won't meet any restrictions or differences in the game until you come to Mount Moon and the Fossil Collector, where you have to choose between a Helix or a Dome Fossil, giving you Kabuto or Ammonite. Now being provided this decision on which fossil you want to take will mark the other one as unobtainable, as the collector will walk away with it. You will not be able to get it in the rest of this gameplay, but it is relatively early on in the game. That being said, in order to get the other fossil in another version, you will have to go all the way to Cinnabar Island, which is the 7th gym, to bring them back to life. Not too bad for your initial playthrough, because you will have to do that anyway, but regarding that you have to do it again, does make it a little bit of a drag, but not impossible. Now, upon exiting Mount Moon and entering Cerulean City is the most honestly exciting and important part of this game that has a huge difference. We can now collect 2 of the 3 starters that we didn't get to pick, but we get anyway, for free as a gift from random NPCs. We get Bulbasaur in the Cerulean City, and then a little past in the route past the Nugget Bridge, we get Charmander, which is really awesome, and Squirtle is not far behind, but for the time being, we get these 2 for free. Now, the part that I was most nervous before starting this challenge, and even during this video, that I wasn't too confident would be possible, is Pokemon is known, especially currently, for having event Pokemon and ones that are exclusive to events or digital codes that are impossible to gain after the game, other than through cheating nowadays. However, Pokemon Yellow and even Red and Blue are all possible to do a sort of, I don't want to say a glitch, but it does mess with the game in order to spawn the elusive Mew, which otherwise is only obtainable through a glitch. It's actually pretty simple. All you have to do is go down Nugget Bridge, beat all the trainers, and then save to the left of the route before stepping in front of the grass. Look up a guide. This isn't an intensive guide. It's just a rough thing just to prove that it's possible. Walk in front of the trainer and pause your game, hit start. If the exclamation Metal Gear Solid point comes over from the trainer being alerted, but your menu comes up at the same time, it'll keep you in this locked state where if you exit it, a trainer battle will start. Or if you have an Abra in your party and teleport back to the Cerulean Poké Center, and then go into the gym and fight the first trainer, which is important you haven't already gone into the gym, so you just leave that and immediately do Nugget Bridge. Go just beat the first trainer, exit, go back up to Nugget Bridge, and your menu will legitimately automatically pop up, and as soon as you exit it, Mew will spawn at, I believe, level 7. I haven't seen any variation, but it has been pretty consistent level 7. And then you can just catch it, and it gets added to your Pokedex entry. That is honestly the only event Pokemon that's in Gen 1 that isn't obtainable in the rest of the game through some form of legitimacy. And the fact you can still technically legitimately get it is very exciting. So that is really the biggest hurdle. You get that, and it's almost attainable as long as you actually have all 3 versions of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Although, to be fair, Yellow isn't necessarily required. It just saves you an exponential amount of time, and I highly recommend that you just have it anyway. They all cost $10 on the Nintendo 3DS because, unfortunately, the cartridges, I have a copy of the original Pokemon Blue, and that battery dried up 15 years ago. It's unable to save when I got the chip. When I was able to get my hands on it, it just won't let you save the game, so it just is impossible to really play on them, unfortunately, unless you get them fixed, and even then, it might not guarantee it. So, you can buy them for the Virtual Console on a 3DS, which is what I did for all 3 of them. However, I did buy Yellow on one, and then the other 2 are on another DS because you have to be able to trade, especially for some trade evolutions, such as Haunter turning into Gengar, or Machoke turning into Machamp, and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, you do at least need 2 copies, except there are version exclusives that can only be acquired in certain games. With those unfortunate technicalities out of the way, we now continue our journey down to Vermilion, where the 3rd gym, the SS Ann, and a whole lot of Pokemon are able to be caught. We can get the TM Flash, which we'll need to go through Rock Cave? Tunnel? Rock Tunnel? Rock Cave? Regardless, I hate that tunnel. It's a pain. Half the games I played, I never even get Flash because I'm too stubborn. This time, because Flash requires 10 Pokemon caught, we have way beyond just through evolution and catching everything on the routes on the way here. And this isn't a Professor's Oak challenge, just because I don't hate myself that much, where you have to evolve everything before the next gym and over level. No, we're just leveling things up as they go, and towards the late game, I focused on just grinding out and EXP sharing everything. But In Vermilion, upon beating Lieutenant Surge, Officer Jenny is actually outside the gym and provides you with a Squirtle. Pretty much one of the Squirtle Squad members, which is very cool, which leads us to having all 3 starters and a Pikachu, and then our unfortunate HM slaves and so on, placeholders, just trying to train other things up while we go through the game. Upon leaving Vermilion, going through rock tunnel, cave thing, mountain, whatever, and getting to Lavender Town, super sad. Not really a lot of things you can do in this city until you take care of the storyline a little further on, so we head over to Celadon. And here, one of the next biggest parts of the game that contains a lot of things, most importantly being the game corner and the free Eevee you get as a gift. Now, I did not realize until I was already at this point where I started to notice, oh shoot, I'm gonna need more copies of this game. You only get 1 Eevee. Eevee has 3 evolutions in Gen 1. So unfortunately, you will have to at least play up to Celadon to get 2 more Eevees to then use a Water, Fire, or Thunderstone in order to get each variant. But since we have to go further than that in another game anyway, at least 2 versions of the game, one will be beating, one will at least be getting to Celadon at a minimum, and then a third one we will have to get the fossil at Cinnabar Island. But with that leads to really the most branching that'll actually need to happen. The game corner, on the other hand, you need so much money because they have the 9999 Poké Dollars value coins that you need for a Porygon, which is only obtainable at the game corner. Now, this costs $250,000 in game, or you can play the slots. I played the slots for maybe an hour and did not get a whole much worth. I still went positive. You're not really going to lose money on the slots, but the amount of money you earn is very slow. The highest you can get is 3 7s in a row, the stereotypical slot jackpot, and it only gives 350 coins for hitting the hardest thing to hit. Otherwise, you're getting about 8 on average every time you spin, considering if you're winning it. So you can spend $1,000 to get 50 coins for that 9999 each time. There's no faster way to do it. I think I went through at least 1 or 2 feature-length movies just mashing A. I was actually concerned I was going to ruin the button, just slaving away to buy those coins instead of play the slots because it didn't matter. I did do this after post-game though, so just getting it out of the way since this is canonically the city you are in and you are able to do it. It's available to you. There are other Pokemon that you can buy, but they are obtainable either through the other games or to upcoming routes if you're impatient. From here, there's not a whole lot of variation until a little bit later. We take on Team Rocket in the Pokemon Game Corner Underground. We go to the Pokemon Tower and take out Team Rocket there and save Mr. Fuji. Get the Pokemon Flute so we can take out the Snorlaxes. Take out at least one, capture the other. Very important you do. There's only 2 in the game. It really opens up from here to wrap all the way around and go down to Fuchsia, which is the 5th gym leaders, and the most important one that we will need to beat in all 3 versions of the game because it provides us with the ability to use Surf, and you need Surf to reach 2 points in the game. Now, just normally you will need it just to progress the game. But for one game, for your red or blue, you will need so you can access either the power plant or Cinnabar Island, which Cinnabar Island you will need to get the other fossil. So you will need the fossil and you'll have to go to the Pokemon Mansion to capture a Magmar. Aside from that, you will also need to go to the power plant in the respective version to capture an Electabuzz, only obtainable in one version. With that out of the way, that is really where the end of the playthrough stops for the red and blue versions. Once you get Surf, you can go to those respective places and you're done. You don't need to progress any further to do anything that you can't do in yellow, which thank God, because there's still a lot to get done in our main file. With our main file actually reaching Fuchsia City, it unlocks a very large portion of where we're going to catch a ton of Pokedex entries. However, it's the Safari Zone, So anybody that's ever dealt with the Safari Zone knows that this is ball-crushingly just unfair odds of getting things. It's an RNG roll to capture or just encounter some of the rare Pokemon such as a Chansey, a Tauros. Tauros literally made me just stop playing the game for a full day because it's a 10% odds to show up, and then it's Safari Zone rules where you throw a ball at it and you have a chance to catch it, but it's probably going to run away. Spoiler alert, it ran away probably like legitimately, I want to say 20 times, but that might be over exaggerating. It felt like it. It might have been like 15 times. I'm not too sure. It was too many that it actually got frustrating. Tangela also, for some reason, I remember in the later versions, it's capturable in other places. Capturable? Is that catchable? Jesus. Actually fuming. Thankfully, Chansey is obtainable at the end game, so I didn't catch it here, but it is such a brutal encounter rate, which I did find it a couple times. It ran every time without any mercy. It was the most unforgiving thing. Kangaskhan, pretty rare, but showed up a lot for me. Caught things like evolutions to Pokemon I didn't want to train, such as Nidorino, Nidorina. So I already had Nidoran female and male and just needed a Moonstone to evolve some of those. It was just pain. I never wish the Safari Zone on anybody, especially just because in this generation, they just seem to want to run from you the second you look at them. I swear, if they could run the second the encounter started, they would. But at least I get one chance to throw a ball or a rock or a bait. Who even knows? None of it seemed to ever make any difference. I just chucked balls at some points and prayed, and eventually they stuck. After you've decided to end your suffering or have successfully caught everything in the Safari Zone, you may continue onwards up into Saffron City, which, rather than getting tea or warm water from an old lady in Celadon, you just have to go to a vending machine and buy fresh water and give it to the guards to enter the city. I actually didn't know that. I had to actually look that up because I don't know how anybody just figured that out. Unless they say that to you, and I just am terrible at reading, I forget. I was more just baffled because of the way I'm used to it in the remakes. That being said, take out Team Rocket in the Silphco building, get that sweet Master Ball that we only get one of, so we have to choose wisely who it's going to be used on. I think I already know. However, we can now, from clearing Team Rocket for good, at least for now, go over to the two gyms that are in the top right of Saffron. One of them provides us a Pokemon for free. The actual like fighting boxing gym, upon beating the master and probably honestly all the other trainers that are somewhat avoidable, but just fight them anyway for the XP, you get to pick between a Hitmonchan or a Hitmonlee. Now, again, much like the fossils, you only get to pick one, so it is important that you at least use one of the files to come pick this up and then trade it over. It's not too bad. They're not actually that hard to beat. They're just fighting types, so you can kind of just brute force your way through it for the most part. I didn't really have that much difficulty, and I was severely underleveled just rushing through the other versions of the game while only focusing on this one. Then we take out the 6th gym leader, we go over to Cinnabar, we take out the 7th gym leader, we go up back to Viridian where the game just almost started around there near our starting town, take out the 8th gym leader, and we're ready for the league. There really isn't any significance. There, you just play the game like normal. Now, a very fun part, which pretty much you can start doing once you do beat the 5th gym and get Surf, although you'll be so underleveled it's really not worth your time because I tried and got burned by this. You are actually able to access most of the legendary birds, which are the very first legendary Pokemon. And the little bitch about Generation 1, your Pokeballs can actually miss. I shit you not, you can throw them at it and it doesn't even do a wiggle animation. It just is like, nope, you missed. Because it's too high level and they do not have it. You can still catch them if you're extremely lucky because it still does count as attempting it, but it's not likely. I did go up against Articuno on my way to the 7th gym, and after save scumming a couple times, because you only encounter them once, after the battle's over, you white out or knock them out or run out of items. You'll never be able to encounter them again. I actually did catch it. I actually cannot believe I got super lucky because it either never wiggled or never got in the ball or immediately got in the ball. There was no in between. So at least that was one out of the way. But I waited until after the 8th gym to then go over to the power plant where you can go capture Zapdos. Pain in the ass, but not as bad as Articuno at the Seafoam Islands because I was a lot higher level by this point, and it respects you. I don't really know how it works. It sees the badges. It's like, a word? So, Moltres has to wait a little bit because we have to go through, not the Hall of Fame, but kind of through showing our badge to each officer to prove that we've earned each one. Kind of annoying, but at the same time, it is what it is. And then we are greeted with Victory Road, the final challenge before getting to the League, the Ultimate Challenge. Cool enough, in Victory Road, as you're progressing through, if you take a certain off path, Moltres, the 3rd legendary bird, is actually just waiting there chilling in the cave. So, encountered it, caught it, didn't have too much trouble because it was the highest level I had been yet. So, again, it was just like, I see, I understand, you made it this far, gotcha. So, we caught it, exited the cave, and now we're in front of the league. From here, we just battle the Pokemon League. I thought this would be a lot harder, but because you get so many Pokemon, you can capture all 3 legendary birds, you have 3 starters, you can just go with whatever in this game. It really isn't that much of a challenge. I feel like in most of the time, every time I've ever come across like even Fire Red or Leaf Green, the league has been very difficult for me for some reason, but I was able to just kind of not steamroll it, but not really have too much difficulty, mostly because capturing everything and just doing so many encounters, I guess I just vicariously got a ton of training, but not over leveled. I was still pretty close to their levels, and they're pretty high for this game. There's some games where they're a lot lower, but there's nothing you can catch obviously in the league. However, upon beating the champion and getting the end screen, you can now go to a secret area only known as Unknown Undiscovered Cave. I only know it really as Cerulean Cave just because of being called that in the later titles. Behind Cerulean, you can go into this cave, which provides you with a lot of high level Pokemon, such as Rhydon, which other than leveling up your Rhyhorn or getting Pokemon such as the elusive Chansey, which is only like a 5% chance, things that need to evolve just show up here, and it saves you a lot of grinding that I actually just held off on because I could just catch them here. And it really it saved me a lot of time just being able to walk in and be like, all right, I'm not going to waste my time leveling these Pokemon up when I can just catch them and be done. And while they're almost level 60 in this cave, it's just another entry. Check. Now, before we get to the actual end of the cave, which signifies the end of the game, 150 Pokemon in the Pokedex. I will put up on screen right now what Pokemon cannot actually be, just to solidify, what can't be collected in Pokemon Yellow, and then what can be put in Pokemon Red and Blue respectively, that can only be acquired in their games on their own. It's actually not too bad, but the number of playthroughs that are required to get these Pokemon does add up, but isn't too bad because these games are relatively short. You are able to speedrun these games pretty freaking hard. I mean, you can beat a Pokemon Gen 1 game in under 10 hours pretty easily, and even that's rounding up pretty high if you're just using like one Pokemon. What I will say to add, while I was playing the other games to spare myself some pain, I would trade over some Pokemon that aren't obtainable in a later form for like a Dratini that needs to evolve all the way to Dragonite as level 55. While it might not obey you at a higher level, it's still strong and can still hold its own as a tank while you're raising up some of the lower leveled ones and using those on the team with an XP bonus. Because you traded them, they get double XP. So instead of using the starter and just kind of boxing it or you keeping it for HMs and stuff to progress the game, you can just level up these Pokemon to save you some time, just for your own sanity. I promise you, in my own experience, I'm going to do what I can to not want to kill myself playing these games and still keep them fun and fresh. And it is kind of fun to just start a game and be like, all right, my starter's a Dratini, but the game's still legit. I just have to trade it over by catching something to give over to the main file. And then once it evolves, trade it on back. That made it way more enjoyable and to mix up the gameplay a little bit and just kind of play in ways that maybe I might not have really touched before. Use Pokemon I'm really never using. I mean, a Meowth, I feel like I never use it, but because it's not, or it's exclusive and not in yellow, along with Ekans and Coughing and stuff like that, I ended up using them just to get that experience and be like, wow, these are Pokemon I would never use other than maybe like a Randomizer or a Nuzlocke. Also, I don't know if like the universe just like came together while I was playing this game because it just knew. But while I was thrift shopping / flea market hunting just for random garbage, I actually came into possession of something I'd never even heard of. Maybe this is a nostalgia trip for some people, but the Pokemon Trainer's Guide. Let me see if I can get the better view on that. I find it super interesting. It's basically a guide for the original Generation 1 games. And that Charizard, honestly, my lighting makes it look a lot like oranger, but it's straight up brown. Like, no joke, legitimately like full on brown. I also, if anybody knows if that character model is from something, that trainer, hell yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it just is basically information on what Pokemon are exclusive to each version, which, I mean, it kind of helped, but the internet exists. This came out in like 99, so back then without the internet, I would have died to have something like this. But it even covers the show, the card game, Pokemon Snap, when it was just the original one. And yeah, I found that very interesting to just kind of flip through. It shows the secret items. I really like the guides, even if I'm not going to use them. But for like hidden items and stuff, for sure. Or evolutions and trades that I might not have noticed. Because even like Pokemon Blue, you can only get Jinx in Pokemon Blue through a trade. Can't get it in Yellow. That trade just doesn't exist. I think the people are still there, but they just don't offer it. And just little things like that that you might not notice unless you talk to every NPC that you'll have to talk to in each version of the game. Without the internet, this shit would be a lot harder. So I respect the people that put this kind of stuff together. And it's not the only book I have. I do have a couple other of the versions for different Pokemon games and even other video games because you needed these bad boys back in the day. I remember it like it was yesterday. It's insane. But without further ado, without any more stalling, I apologize. 151 Pokemon in the decks. One remains. Is it still obtainable? The elusive Mewtwo. The hardest Pokemon to catch in the game. The toughest one. The experiment gone wrong. Absolute malicious. Learns its ways in the movies. Unstoppable power force. Can we defeat it? Or catch it? I master balled it. Yeah, so like that basically completed it. And with that, we complete the Pokedex. It's actually possible. I was ecstatic to find this out. You can actually complete the Pokedex to this day, at least on the virtual consoles of the versions for the 3DS. You basically do need Pokemon Blue and Red, but I highly suggest you have Pokemon Yellow because it'll save you so much time and sanity, and you will need 2 3DSs, which I did buy about a week or two ago just to do this challenge. And yeah, I'm extremely ecstatic because it feels like I've fulfilled part of my childhood, at least a piece of it, of something that's like, I've played these games thousands of times, really realistically like 10 times, but so many times that I genuinely don't remember and just kind of replayed. And I wanted something to make it fresh again, to really bring back the passion of what I felt when I originally played them. Because now I feel like it's like I gotta do a Nuzlocke, everything's gotta be over leveled, I gotta slap my cheeks around to like feel alive again. But this really wasn't hard. It was just more of like a focus and sheer will and dedication to something. And I really it was a different kind of enjoyment that I really wouldn't trade for the world. I highly encourage anybody else that's a huge Pokemon fan like myself to really give it a shot, especially for Generation 1. This is probably the easiest it ever will be and ever has been, because going on from this point, it only gets more rough. They only add more Pokemon and just harder methods that you have to deal with that I don't even want to think about right now. But it's exciting to know that this chapter's out of the way. The fact you can get an event Pokemon Mew still legitimately to this day is cool. It didn't get patched in the virtual console versions. So yeah, 151 Pokemon are actually obtainable. You just need a little bit of equipment and a little bit of money, I guess. But it's not too much of a break the bank experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Now what's next? Generation 2. Is that going to be possible? I guess we'll find out. With all that out of the way, I thank you so much for watching this video. It really, it's kind of a nonsensical mess. Don't really take this as a guide, just more of a rough outline and just kind of an experience aspect. It was really just a personal challenge. Hopefully I brought some entertainment value for this. But yeah, so if you did enjoy this video, please like it. Please subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to me. I gotta chill out. I might as well. If you've stayed this long into the video, shit, I'm very impressed more by you than me completing 151 pocket monsters. So yeah, other than that, that's all I really have to talk about for today. So hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.